Yeah, come back next week. What's that? Yes, I did. Really hope that continues. Well, Friday night, I had date night. My wife made me take her to a movie. So we went and saw The Shack. How many of you have read the book or seen the movie? Okay. Yeah, she actually made me read the book first, which I never do. But the title of this was, Whose Call Is It Anyway? And the biggest thing that I could see between the movie and the book was, why are we trying to make the judgment on others? Now, if you remember the basic premise of the book and the movie, Mac had his youngest son or daughter, I believe she was 4 or 5, kidnapped and murdered on a camping trip. This ate at him and ate at him and ate at him to a point where he was the one that wanted to pass judgment. He believed that the perpetrator of this should be condemned to hell, beaten, flogged, whatever terrible things that we could come up with, this should be done to him for the loss of his daughter. In the process, he receives a note, an anonymous note. Well, it's not anonymous, but the note is unique. It says, please come to the shack. The shack is an event where all these terrible things have taken place. The note is signed by Papa, who Mac's family referred to God as. Now, as we go through this, you need to remember that this is not the doctrine that we grew up with. On his way to the shack, he appears to have almost an accident, makes it there, takes a gun out of the car because he borrowed his friend's car. So traumatized by being in that place that he thinks he wants to commit suicide. As he's about to, he hears a sound at the door, turns around, it's a deer. Takes a nap. Taking this nap, he's in a dream. The dream he's in, he is met with the personification, this God, and the Holy Spirit. Each of them having their own function as what we would consider the Almighty, but all three of them working together to perform all of those functions. As he goes through blaming God for not saving his daughter, for allowing the perpetrator to run amok without any justice or punishment, they take him through day by day and teach him, reteach him what God's is, what God's love really is. And one of the things that he learns, Zach, slide. He's asking a question, and the question is, God pervert justice, or does the Almighty pervert the right? Does God just ignore things? Does God just not do anything when terrible things happen? And the answer comes, slide, Zach. Job 34:12, that God will not do wickedly, and the Almighty will not pervert justice. Leave that decision, leave that judgment to God. They go out for a walk in the woods, Mac and God, and they come across a representation of the man who perpetrated this evil on his daughter. And Mac realizes that part of the letting go process, part of his healing, is the ability to forgive. And I got in the car and I said, the best part of that was God telling him that forgiveness is not letting it go away. Forgiveness is just you taking your hands from his throat. He finally does take that representation, which is the ladybug, and he forgives it. During the movie, you hear him, or actually, in the next scene, they find his daughter's body. They take his daughter's body and they wrap it and they take it out and take it so that it can be buried. And as Mac is carrying his daughter, you can hear him, I forgive you, multiple times. Because it may take a while to truly get that out. But the whole premise of the movie is not that our God actually lives as these three personified beings, but that as we go through life, it's an opportunity for us to look in and say, is this my responsibility to make that call? Do I make the decision as to whether this person who has wronged me or my family goes to heaven, goes to hell? I don't believe it is. Yes, there are people on this earth right now that I am still angry with today. But the outcome of their life is not my choice. We all sometimes don't stop and think that we are not the judge. We are not the person making decision as to what happens to another. A little later in the movie, what they have Mac meet Wisdom. Wisdom faces that trial and that turmoil and puts Mac in the spot of making judgment. It takes a few turns, a few times around the well, that Mac realizes he doesn't want to be that person, doesn't want to make that decision. In life, sometimes we judge or prejudge others. Sometimes we need to stop and think, what's going on in there? How can we be the better person without being the judgmental person? So as each step that we take, that we look for our own satisfactions, we need to remember that in the great scheme, we don't have the final judgment. We're only a part of the picture that goes on every day. But with that, bring up a sending hymn. That's it. I'm done. Not nearly as long as the last time.
Would stand, please. Our service with I'm Forever Grateful.